Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyber Duality, a COcyber podcast. This series is part of the EU-funded COcyber project, exploring how Europe can strengthen the connection between civilian and defense actors in cybersecurity and build a more resilient digital ecosystem. I am Dorina Stanculescu, COcyber's Communication and Dissemination Manager, and in each episode, we speak with leading voices who contribute to Europe's cyber future. Today, I'm happy to be joined by Ana-Maria Matejic. Did I pronounce it correctly? I hope so. Senior Cybersecurity Advisor at WhiteLabelConsultancy. Ana-Maria, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me, and I'm really excited to be part of this podcast.
Okay, so I think we can jump into the first question. Could you briefly tell us about your professional journey and what led you to work at the intersection of cybersecurity, business strategy, and human behavior?
Absolutely. So my professional journey is quite long already, so I don't think that details matter that much, but I actually started in what was called at the time IT security. There was no cybersecurity. And because I was working since my first job with clients, so with customers of that respective employer, and it was also something related to IT security, but it was everything as a support to develop business. I quickly figured out that all these three factors are very much interconnected. So IT security, later cybersecurity, the business strategy, and human behavior. And if we spend some time talking about the human behavior, I don't think that we would have today the cybersecurity term or older IT security as we know it if we didn't have the human factor involved. So that's why I took actually a very specific interest into trying first to understand the human behavior both on the good and the bad side of cybersecurity, and later on using the technology, trying to let's say use this human behavior in our advantage, in the advantage of the businesses, and later on, of course, in the advantage of the society.
Thank you, Ana-Maria. This is quite interesting from the beginning. So I put down already three pillars, three keywords: IT, business, and human behavior. And with this, we move on, because otherwise we talk only about this first question for the whole podcast. Question number 2 for you. You have worked in telecom, space, and defense. What has this experience taught you about rendering cybersecurity work, making it function in very different organizational environments?
Indeed, they are very different environments, but today, I mean in 2026, I think each of these three specific domains are very much interconnected between themselves. I think, well, it was the case before, but maybe not that visible for the wider audience. And if I look back some years, I'd say that, well, there were challenges in telecom, not on the operational side, but I think cybersecurity was struggling to get a deserved spot on the corporate side. And it was already proving its effectiveness on the operations side. I think in the defense domain, we had an approach. It was not necessarily called cybersecurity. It was called security, or let's say military operations. So it was very much hidden to the wider audience or to the public. But I think that at that point in time, and today we see it, we had probably the most visible developments. In space sector, cybersecurity is relatively new, and when I say new, it's not since last year, but we talk about last 10-15 years. And Coming back to what I began with, these three domains are very much depending on each other today. And I think that today each of these three domains takes cybersecurity very serious. In particular, the domains are very committed to cybersecurity as means of not only cyber defense but of also providing their respective services in a secure manner, as much as possible, of course.
Moving now to COcyber. As you know very well, because you are one of our batch free ambassadors, so part of our COcyber ambassadors program, COcyber focuses on strengthening civilian defense cooperation in cybersecurity. From your perspective, how do civilian and defense actors currently interact? And do you see major gaps in this interaction?
That's actually an interesting question, and of course, one of the reasons for which COcyber has been so meaningful for me. And I think that it's only fair to look at the fact that civilian and defense actors operate under fundamentally different mandates, legal frameworks, and even cultures. Yet they face an increasingly shared threat environment. So, if we look at the state sponsored attacks on critical infrastructure, hybrid warfare campaigns, and the blurring of peacetime and conflict thresholds, these all have made siloed approaches untenable. So, even if we see gaps, and we have seen those in the past, and we will see them probably in the future, the current situation, as I said, makes these two domains gain value one from each other. However, there are a few areas that really worth mentioning where we certainly witness strong interactions already, and I even dare to say convergence. We look at the regulation landscape, which is increasingly forcing this relationship between the two domains. For example, we have NIS2 that require operators of essential services to meet high security standards that in practice today align with the defense grade expectations, creating already a de facto convergence at the technical level. We also look at the joint exercises, such as NATO's cyber coalition and EU Cyber Europe, that bring these two communities at the same table, testing response coordination across civilian and military chains of command. And last but not least important, the institutional frameworks such as the EU Cyber Diplomacy Toolbox and NATO's recognition of cyberspace as an operational domain have formalized the coordination at the policy level. And of course, it remains to be seen how the huge amount of work at the implementation level will be leveled across the member states.
Thank you, Ana-Maria. Very, very interesting because you started from the differences. Let's see, maybe the gaps, legal, cultural. You went to the shared threats. You also mentioned that maybe there are some things in silos still, but there are very good indications of coordination and convergence. A little bit maybe pushed by regulation, by institutional frameworks, and also by policy. Let's move on. Question number 4. You often highlight the human factor as a key enabler of cybersecurity. What does this mean when organizations try to build programs that people understand, accept, and of course follow?
That's a very interesting question, actually, and very actual for at least the last 10 years. And I think it's fair to admit that most of cybersecurity failures, as we see them today, are not really technology failures. Firewalls get bypassed because someone is clicking a link. Access controls are circumvented because someone has shared a password around. Incident response plans fail because, well, no one has been practicing them. And in all this landscape, the technology was correct, but the human behavior was not correct. And the program did exist on paper, but it did not exist in behavior. And that's actually the starting point for the conversation around building programs and, well, at a larger scale, cultures that people first understand, then accept, and of course later on follow. What I really believe in is that instead of building security programs that protect organizations from their people, these organizations have to focus on building programs that work through their people. So basically designing for the actual human that sits at the laptop, at the workstation, and not for the ideal user. We have to recognize and to use this information that people are not rational security actors. People are busy, people are distracted at work, they get incentives to get things done quickly, and they make decisions based on habit and context rather than based on the policy documents that the organization has made available. As such, I think a program built on the human factor starts by understanding how people actually work. The program would understand their workflows, would understand their pressures, and ultimately their mental models of risks. And, well, designs at the end security into the reality rather than against that reality. Also, a very important thing in this picture is to look at how senior leadership behaves around security. And that's the most powerful cultural sign in any organization today. Because if the CEO or the senior management visibly bypasses controls, require or request exceptions, or treat security as it's someone else's problem, no awareness program and no attempt of cultural change in the area of cybersecurity will overcome that signal. Conversely, when leadership takes security seriously, so you see them in trainings, they ask about risk in board meetings, they own incidents rather than deflecting them, it somehow normalizes security as a shared organizational value rather than a technical team concern, which is not. So this is precisely why C-level and senior management briefings are such a critical component of a mature initiative to change the cybersecurity mindset within the organization and to build an adapted security program.
Thank you for this, Ana-Maria. You touch a very sensitive point for us at COcyber. For me, in particular, because together with one of my colleagues at Australo, we have written and we will soon publish a white paper on building cybersecurity awareness and effective communication strategies for cybersecurity awareness. So it's very interesting to see that a lot of the aspects that we have done research on and that we have written this white paper on are converging with what you said. So we found that the main challenges were not tech related but human related. We found out that the theory and the papers that we give people to read through are not put in practice very easily. We found out that people are not ideal users and so on, and also a very important factor, the C-level that you mentioned. So yes, let's keep this conversation going because I think it's very important. The human element will always prevail, and I would say fortunately. Let's move on to our last question for today. So to close our discussion with a look to the future, what excites you the most about the future of cybersecurity in Europe, and what concerns you the most?
Well, being in the cybersecurity field for the last 20 years, I think it's very exciting to live the times when finally cybersecurity takes the spotlight and moves out of the dark corner where we used to kind of secretly operate. And that's a great thing for us, the practitioners community. But on the other hand, this unfortunately happened because of the proliferation of cyber threats with effects in the society, and that's probably the concerning part, because this proliferation will not stop. It's getting augmented more and more, and I think that. Of course, it's great to have cyber in the spotlight, but in the same time, it's very important that we take that statement of we need to cooperate into real practice, and I think that all parts should be committed on that. So the operational part, then the policy part, then I was mentioning before cyber diplomacy part. Everyone has to be committed to cooperation, because without that, and without, of course, synergies between domains, like what COcyber did in this project. So without these synergies, unfortunately, we will not be able to address the growing threat of cyber threats within our society. So for us as citizens.
Yes, thank you, Ana-Maria. Also, I like this. You said that cybersecurity moves from the dark side into the spotlight. Okay, I don't mention again the reason why this happened, but I think since it has happened, it's very important, and we need to leverage on this. We need to work on this, and of course, thank you for mentioning COcyber, because the scope of COcyber was that of creating cooperation, of creating synergies, and I think that's a good approach to the future. Thank you for sharing your insights, Ana-Maria. Thank you for contributing to this episode of Cyber Duality. Your perspective on human behavior, organizational cultures, synergies adds an important dimension to our conversation on how Europe can strengthen its cyber capabilities. For those listening, you can follow COcyber's work and our upcoming activities, like the final conference in Brussels on June 25th, on our website, on LinkedIn, and Blue Sky pages. This episode concludes our Cyber Duality podcast series, so thank you all for following us and our conversation with our cybersecurity experts. Thank you.